If my daughter is watching this right now, I would say, I love you. And come back home to your mother safely and unharmed. And I love you. And when you do return back, and if you do return back unharmed, you will never, ever go with anybody else. You will be next to my side at all times.
Welcome back to What's the 411 News, where we bring you news observation, interpretation, and news commentary from an FBA and BGR perspective. Let's get it.
If my daughter is watching this right now, I would say, I love you. And come back home to your mother safely and unharmed. And I love you. And when you do return back, and if you do return back unharmed, you will never, ever go with anybody else. You will be next.
Welcome back to What's the 411 News. All right. In this one, we're going to get into it very shortly. This is a case of Relisha Rudd. It's been 12 years since she's been missing. All right. And still no answers to this day. She was missing out of Washington, D.C. We're going to get into the case. Hopefully this will spark some more information, maybe to find out where she can be found or any information regarding her. These are one of those cases where, unfortunately, when it comes to a lot of Black children, you don't hear too much about it. These are one of those underreported cases. The news media, the mainstream or the lamestream news media will not push it very far, right? And sometimes the details or the information regarding cases like this get real shaky a lot of times. And unfortunately, we have situations like this. So with that being said, we're going to get into it. All right. From the very beginning here, we're going to go into some videos, go into some articles, and hopefully this will definitely spark some folks who might have some information that maybe they was holding out on, and maybe they'll finally speak up about this particular case. All right. So we're going to get into this first video here before we get into the article. All right. So let's get into it.
If my daughter is watching this right now, I would say, I love you. And come back home to your mother safely and unharmed. And I love you. And when you do return back, and if you do return back unharmed, you will never, ever go with anybody else. You will be next to my side at all times.
They say he's armed, that he's dangerous. He's wanted by the FBI. Khalil Tatum, wanted in connection with the murder of his wife. Wanted in the disappearance of 8-year-old Relisha Rudd.
He bought my daughter a fish tank, but I stopped it there. No more gifts.
DC General needs to be, I don't know, they need to really do a really thorough background check with these workers.
Sources tell News 4 Relisha's mom had allowed Tatum to take Relisha weeks ago, not suspecting he would hurt her.
The minute people saw that beautiful little girl's face, there were people in DC who could think of nothing else except to find out where she was. Her picture was everywhere. Her on every TV story, on telephone poles, on everywhere. Everyone was sharing it on social media. It was the search for her was something that Washingtonians, people from this area who were living here 10 years ago, you say her name, they immediately know what you're talking about.
My relationship with Relisha, it was good. You know, it was like, even though she wasn't my biological child, it was like, it's hard. It's really hard, but it was special in its own way. She was a real sweetheart.
Bring her home! Bring her home!
We can no longer turn a blind eye to this issue of missing people of color around the country. 40% of the missing population are Black and brown people.
It had been almost a month since she had attended classes, but sources tell us this is not the first time officials knew of problems with the little girl's family.
This family was under the supervision of Child and Family Services. So this child should not have gone missing.
Doreen, why was this guy at a D.C. hotel, and why did he have this little girl with him?
I think as we look at Relisha's story, we can ask ourselves, okay, what other Relishas are out there, and what am I doing to prevent this from happening?
The significance of this section of the Anacostia is that we are directly downstream from Kenilworth Aquatic Gardens. That is where the search for 8-year-old Relisha Rudd has been focused for days.
We have to continue to hold her in our collective hearts and make sure that we do everything that we can do to prevent another child from going through what she did.
The search for Relisha Rudd resumes tomorrow morning.
Relisha's stepfather among those speaking through tears.
I just want my baby back. Yeah, I got hope, but I'm preparing for the worst, but I'm praying for the best. I got hope. My son believes she's alive. And this is coming from her brother.
Relisha.
All right, so let's get into the article and break that down, because some of you might have questions, and even might through this article we're going to have to answer some questions. Might be some questions based off of this article, all right? And then we'll go into another video shortly. Okay. Again, like I say, there seems to be a lot of cases like this when it comes to Black children. You don't get too much airplay. Things go underreported. They'll be in the news for a day or two, and then it kind of gets swept under the rug, especially when it comes to Black children. And even with, it's kind of reversed when it comes to Black adults, and depending on what the Black adults are doing, they'll get more airplay when it's something negative. But then when it comes to looking for a Black child, right, and things happening to them, and then especially when you have other Black people are the involved suspects, it kind of gets like, oh, well, we're going to move on to the next one. We did enough by trying to broadcast it, but outside of that, nothing else. So let's get into this article here and get the details of this. Okay, let me just see something real quick. All right, so case of 8-year-old Black girl who went missing 12 years ago in Washington, D.C., and D.C. out of all places. You know what I'm saying? Out of all places, Washington, D.C., come on. It has still not been solved. Relisha Rudd, a Black American girl from Washington, D.C., was 8 years old when she disappeared in 2014 from a homeless shelter in the city. 12 years later, authorities still have not solved her disappearance, and the case remains open. All right? Case remains open. Relisha lived in a family shelter in Washington, D.C. with her mother, stepfather Antonio Wheeler, and her two younger brothers after the family lost their home. The shelter, which used to operate as a hospital, had poor conditions and limited supervision. All right. There's one of your problems and challenges right there. All right. So while staying there, Relisha came into contact with a janitor named Khalil Tatum. All right. He had a criminal record and should not have been hired at the facility. There's your next problem. People not doing thorough background checks and making sure certain people aren't hired in places like this. Okay. He gave her gifts, took her on outings, and broke shelter rules by building a close relationship with her. Relisha's mother later allowed her to stay overnight with him, believing she was safe and spending time with his family. There's another problem. You know, how much trust has this lady had of this dude? He's not even a family member of yours, from what I can tell. All right, whatsoever. Now, she probably didn't know about him having a criminal record, which I think is mentioned in the video, or was mentioned in the video. But how much trust do you give? And then you're talking about a girl and then some other man at that. And I'm not trying to go down or get down on the mom, but it's still something that needs to be addressed. Okay? It still needs to be addressed. All right. Relisha began missing school soon after. I guess soon after she was allowed to be with Khalil Tatum. Right? I think she was starting to become missing from school. Again, there's a lot of questions. Did the mom get a phone number? Did the mom verify some things about this dude? It might be apparent, according to how this case is going and what I'm reading and the videos that you see, it might be apparent the answers to these questions. But it's also to bring up this for people watching this now who will be seeing this later down the road. Okay. Again, Relisha began missing school soon after. Her absences were covered with notes signed by a Dr. Tatum. A school counselor checked the contact number on the notes and reached the shelter instead, where staff confirmed no such doctor existed. Now, I'm wondering if staff members thought to themselves, wait a minute, Tatum, Dr. Tatum? Wait a minute, are they talking about Khalil Tatum? And, start following protocols of some sort or start asking questions at that point. All right, there's another issue right there. Another break in the crack. Another crack in the wall, if you will, right? Again, a school counselor checked the number on the notes and reached the shelter instead, where staff confirmed no such doctor existed. By that time, 18 days had passed since Relisha was seen. Investigators later found surveillance footage showing Relisha with Tatum inside a Washington, D.C. hotel in February 2014. And that's the video you guys seen a little while ago that was shown. The case escalated weeks later. Now, weeks later, all right, 18 days done already passed. So I guess once that passed, things were starting to get investigated. Footage was found of Tatum and Relisha in this hotel. And then weeks later, the case escalates when police discovered Tatum's wife, Andrea Tatum, was deceased in Maryland. Authorities issued a warrant for his arrest in connection with her killing with the wife, and said he was believed to be traveling with Relisha. Before police could locate him, Tatum was found deceased by suicide in April. So you already have February. All of March went by, and then you had April. In Northwest Washington, D.C. His death ended the active manhunt, but it did not bring answers about Relisha's whereabouts. Okay. In October 2025, when Relisha would have turned 20 years old, the Black and Missing Foundation released a short docuseries to bring renewed attention to her case. So from 2024, almost, 11 years, I say, that this case wasn't really being renewed or brought up from based off of what I'm reading and the video footage. Nothing was really said after that. And this goes to show, or what I was saying earlier, about how when these cases like this come about, when it comes to little children, Black children in particular, you know, these are the things that get swept under the rug. Okay? They get swept under the rug. So again, in October 2025, when Relisha would have turned 20 years old, the Black and Missing Foundation released a short docuseries to bring renewed attention to her case. Advocates hope the spotlight will lead to new tips. Some investigators and advocates believe she may have been a victim of trafficking, human trafficking, all right, which could very well be the case. You know, human trafficking is alive and well. The DC Metropolitan Police Department says the investigation remains open. Officials continue to ask the public to come forward with any information that could help solve the case. Relisha's stepfather, Antonio Wheeler, has said he still believes she may be alive. He remembers her as caring and responsible, often looking after her younger brothers and bringing warmth to those around her. All right. So that is the info we have, a little bit more of the details going on with that. Okay. And so what we're going to do is get into another video here with some more information before we get out of here. And yeah, we're going to check this one out.
You know, Relisha Rudd was last seen on March 1st. About 14 days later, the school called, you know, inquiring where Relisha was, which launched an investigation. Police were notified. Police came out, began interviewing people, interviewing family. Early on, they thought possibly she could have been maybe sexually, trafficked. So they brought in the FBI and the MPD, DC Police Department with the FBI, within the first 24 hours began working the case. At that point, it was like gathering information, what happened, can we find Relisha? You know, about 2 weeks later.
And real quick, there are independent companies and people who actually go out and they actually hunt for these traffickers. All right. So maybe they'll be watching this, or maybe someone will direct them to this particular video here, and maybe start putting in some work into finding out some information about Relisha Rudd. All right. So I'm just putting out the alert to you independent guys, because I know they exist out there. I'm very aware that there are some guys out there, and probably some girls. I say girls, but, you know, grown women, guys and girls, that are very active in hunting down traffickers and hunting down victims that traffickers may have. So it's a very dangerous job as well. All right. Very super dangerous job. So I'm just putting out the black signal instead of the bat signal. I'm putting out the black signal for these companies or these individuals who go out here independently searching for traffickers and their victims. All right. So let's continue with the video. Let me put it back just a little bit, and let's continue in.
Trafficked. So they brought in the FBI and the MPD, DC Police Department with the FBI, within the first 24 hours began working the case. At that point, it was like gathering information, what happened, can we find Relisha? You know, about 2 weeks later, the person who was last seen with Relisha killed his wife, then a couple days later killed himself. And at that point, the investigation turned into, let's find Relisha. So for the, probably the past 10 years, the investigation has been focused on where is Relisha, can we find her or recover her and bring her back home.
And Natalie and Derica, how did the Black and Missing Foundation get involved in Relisha's case?
They needed community support to help find Relisha. time was of the essence, as Detective Fulton said. It was 14 days before she was reported missing. A lot of time was lost. And why we want to do this now, Relisha will be 20 years old next month. And she did not get the national media coverage that she needed. And we want to help find Relisha. We will never stop searching for her. We believe that she's out there. Before coming here, did you all know of Relisha Rudd? Can you raise your hands if you did? Okay, so some of you did. But again, this is a crisis that's affecting our communities, and we're not getting the media coverage. Relisha deserved media coverage. She was 8 years old. So we cannot forget about her. We have to continue to fight for her and to bring her home.
And I just want to add that awareness is key. Oftentimes when we're posting, some of our followers, they're like, I didn't know that she was still missing. So we know that someone out there knows something, and we just need them to come forward. But if we stop sharing, it gives this perception that she's no longer missing. And we've seen miracles happen. We've seen where people have been missing for such a long time, and we were able to bring them home. And that's what we're hopeful for, that we're able to bring Relisha home.
And Mike, what key insights or investigative skills did you bring to this investigation?
Well, unfortunately, I should say that we had similar cases, women who went missing in DC, and I got involved in one of those cases, Pam Butler, who went missing, and we were able to investigate that and close that, which kind of led us to another case of a woman who went missing, and we were able to investigate that and close that. And sort of during all that, it put me in contact with Black and Missing and the resources they had, and quite honestly, it opened my eyes to just how bad this situation is, how lack of attention, lack of police resources just didn't exist. And with some nudging and some convincing, we took on the Relisha Rudd case, and the hope is that people may have knew the name Relisha Rudd, but they certainly didn't know the face. With Black and Missing now, the media coverage and stuff they get, people may now put a face to the name, but what I'm trying to do now is take a deep dive into the investigation and actually give Relisha Rudd a voice and let her tell her story. I mean, as you've seen, or if you saw stuff on the news, there's a lot of people talk about it, families, mothers, grandmoms, they're all telling their story, but no one's told Relisha's story. And the hope is, like I said, that after Mr. Tatum killed himself, for the past 10 years, it's really been, let's find Relisha. And what I'm trying to do now is to dig into it, go through every piece of information to find out what happened, why it happened, give her her voice to tell her story, and in the hopes of that, being able to figure out exactly what happened, and hopefully that leads us to where Relisha is.
All right, so there you have it. The Relisha Rudd case. This is just something this was researching some other news, and I came across this one. I was like, yeah, we have to put this back out because I already know, and I brought this up on another case. I did an underreported case where I think it was the young lady who was unalived by, I think it was a Latino guy, right? And I seen and I couldn't really find too much other news about the situation. So it seems like Black women, Black girls, it's always something where it's just a blip on the screen, reported as a blip or not at all, and it shows up later on, a lot of times in other Black publications and not really on a mainstream publication at all. So again, I'm putting out the Black signal for those, and some of them are actual either retired special forces. I don't know if there are current active special forces, but I know there are some special forces as well who also get involved in locating traffickers and the victims of traffickers. So I'm putting, again, the black signal out there. So in case they happen to see this, maybe somebody can come back and follow up on this case right here and figure out, because it is suspected that she could have been trafficked. It kind of leaves like a, when you're doing investigations and you get so much information and it seems like certain things is left out. And you could tell from the information you gather, and it's like, well, wait a minute. Here's a missing piece. You know, this guy took her. The lady was comfortable enough for her to, you know, allow the child to go with this guy. Then all of a sudden, the information is, we got a video of them being in a hotel. That's it. Next thing you know, this guy kills his wife, and then a few days later, he kills himself. There's some information in between those times what was happening with the girl. All right, last time you seen her, she's with him. That's it. That's the last time. So what happened between that hotel, what you're seeing on the screen right now, right? Perfect timing. You see her on the screen right now. Clip that. And then after that, what happens between that hotel video footage and the wife being taken out? What happens to Relisha? All right. If he's still with her during the wife being taken out, if she's still with him, then he, from there's a couple of days go in, then he offs himself. Right? So then where's she left at? What happens at that point? All right. Was there a trade-off before he offs himself? Was there a trade-off after the hotel situation? They leave the hotel. Is there a trafficking trade being made then? Right? Or is she still with him when he takes out the wife, his wife? All right. Is it from there that a trafficking situation happens? Right? Is it from there and then he takes himself out? Or does he take himself out and just leave her be? Does he take her out first? Does he take her out first before the wife and then takes out himself? See all that stuff in between there. So let's get this out, share this video out to others, talk about it, and so the information can be spread, and let's try to bring this one to closure, man. All right. So with that being said, I appreciate y'all. As always, this is What's the 411 News, and we'll be back with another one. All right. Peace.
Welcome back to What's the 411 News, where we bring you news observation, interpretation, and news commentary from an FBA and BGR perspective. Let's get it.